Every time I get my own show, they turn this channel upside down. Hello one and all, I am Tempest from WrestleTalk.com and welcome to the WrestleLuke channel, I guess. I'll say right off the bat, I don't know what's going on with Mr. Davis or with the whole Luke Owen thing. I'm just going to go about my job as I would any other week. So welcome to the WrestleTalk recap. So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, there were a lot of shows this week and I need to get through them quick. So we're going to go through these kind of rapid fire. So let's get going. First up, we have our match of the week. There were a lot of options to choose from this week, but I think the safe choice is the NXT North American Championship ladder match from NXT TakeOver 30. Damian Priest would walk away with the gold after this one as he outlasted Cameron Grimes, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, and the Velveteen Dream in a match that featured the kind of violence you would expect from today's ladder matches. Following that, the show of the week is NXT TakeOver 30 as a whole. Okay, pause. I know I said that NXT TakeOver 30 was the best show of the week. Well, I'm sorry, it's not. I filmed this before New Japan's Summer Struggle in Jingu happened, and that was one of the best shows of the entire year. So I'm just gonna press pause, tell you that, get to New Japan in a little bit, but for the sake of my integrity, I have to let you know that NXT TakeOver 30 is not, in fact, the best show of the week. All right, enjoy. There was a great match between Finn Balor and Timothy Thatcher, the aforementioned North American Championship ladder match, which arguably stole the show, as well as a decent little battle between Dakota Kai and Io Shirai for the NXT Women's Championship. One of the biggest stories of the show was the debut of Pat McAfee, who blew away all expectations, given that this was his very first pro wrestling match. Finally, that brings us to the main event, where Karrion Kross was able to capture the NXT Championship from Keith Lee. While this show wasn't quite good enough to crack the top tier of NXT TakeOver specials, it was still the best show of this and many other weeks as well. And just to keep this show rolling, we're going to move right on to the news now, and most of the news this week took place in the ring. And unfortunately, we had Karrion Kross having to vacate that NXT Championship right after he had won it, having separated his shoulder. Following a similar line, we had Roman Reigns returning to WWE programming after many months off.
Okay.
What? Roman Reigns.
Is he running Retribution?
Unfortunately, a piece of tragic news this week was the passing of Bullet Bob Armstrong, one of the very best babyfaces in the history of pro wrestling. Our hearts go out to the entire Armstrong family. We wish them all the best during this difficult time. All right, we're at the difficult part of the show where I gotta rifle through all these different events that have taken place this week, so I'm just gonna start rifling through them. First up, we had AEW Dynamite from Saturday, August 22nd. This show was notable for a few reasons. First up, the Elite took on the Dark Order in a decent little match, about 11 minutes long, got 4.25 stars from Dave Meltzer. Definitely worth checking out. Finally, Brody Lee just about killed Cody, didn't he?
An angle that actually made me cry when I watched it. I was low on sleep after SummerSlam, okay?
The next night, we had SummerSlam, WWE's second biggest show of the whole year. Now, there was a ton to talk about on this show. You had Asuka pulling double duty, facing first Bayley and then Sasha Banks in some of the best women's wrestling we've seen all year. Then you had another debut, with Rey Mysterio's son Dominic getting his first taste of in-ring action in WWE. He wasn't able to pull off the win against Seth Rollins, but he had a very good showing in his first ever match. Then we had another contender for match of the week as Drew McIntyre retained the WWE Championship against Randy Orton, and perhaps the biggest news of the whole match is that he won with a backslide. When was the last time that happened in a World Championship match? Loved it though. And then the show closed with Bray Wyatt recapturing the Universal Championship, a title he should have never lost in the first place, by beating Braun Strowman in a Falls Count Anywhere match. He was then assaulted by Roman Reigns, as we've already said, and the three of them will now face each other at Backlash. Backlash. It's Payback, you know what I mean. It's the same show. They're all the same. Fast forward 24 hours and you make it to Monday Night Raw, where Keith Lee made his official main roster debut, taking on Randy Orton. Moving on to NXT TV, we saw Karrion Kross vacate the NXT Championship. Then we saw another championship change hands as Breezango captured the NXT Tag Team Championships, defeating Imperium. Finally, we got the blockbuster announcement from William Regal that next week we're going to be seeing a Fatal 4-Way 60-minute Iron Man match for the NXT Championship between Finn Balor, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa. The match features three of the very best NXT champions of all time and Johnny Gargano. And then what's this? A double dose of AEW Dynamite? Let me check my calendar. It's not Christmas. The August 27th episode of AEW Dynamite was also notable for a few reasons. First up, Hangman Adam Page costing the Young Bucks a shot at the AEW World Tag Team Championships. That title shot, of course, ended up going to FTR, but the end of the day saw Hangman Page excommunicated from the Elite. You knew it was coming, but I bet you didn't see it coming this week. Friday had SmackDown, and it was a good show this week. You had the return of Sami Zayn, out to prove that he is the actual Intercontinental Champion, hyping up a potential feud with Jeff Hardy, and you had Roman Reigns aligning with Paul Heyman. So New Japan Pro Wrestling returned with their Summer Struggle in Jingu show, and oh my goodness, it was one of the best shows of the entire year. Minoru Suzuki took on Shingo Takagi for the Never Openweight Championship in an extremely hard-hitting affair. It was great, and Suzuki managed to win the championship for the first time since 2018. Later in the show, Taiji Ishimori was able to regain the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship by beating Hiromu Takahashi, my favorite. And then finally, in the main event, Tetsuya Naito was able to regain the IWGP Double Championship by beating his former pareja, Evil. Los Ingobernables helped chip in by getting rid of Dick Togo and Gato, and it was a pretty darn good match, all things considered, capping off one of the best shows of the entire year. Heading on over to WrestleTalk.com, we had a number of great features for you this week, including Louis Dangoor's latest list of 5 picks to win the 2021 Royal Rumble. Let us know who you think is going to win the Royal Rumble in the comments below. Did you miss Adam Blampier's list this week? Well, you should go and check it out as he details 12 times that celebrities appeared as wrestling heels. Oh, those naughty boys.
Mike Tyson is not on this list because he was a sleeper agent planted into DX by genius tactician Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was in deep cover, he never stopped being face. The truth is out there, people, wake up.
Make sure you go over to WrestleTalk Interviews, where Louis Dangoor interviewed the one and only Ric Flair. The two, of course, discussed the Nature Boy's recent appearances on WWE programming, where he worked with the likes of Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, but he also discussed what the WWE roster is like today compared to the likes of 2008.
What you see more in the industry is you've got 5 guys right now that can do what only Ray did back then.
Finally, it's come time for me to plug Parts Unknown, and well, this is awkward now, isn't it? First up, we had the latest episode of Is Blank Actually Good, where Luke Owen detailed whether the Attitude Era was actually good.
It just stops. Look at this. Look, it's like I look like a Bella.
We then had the latest edition of No Rolls Barred, where the gang took us through Cruel Britannia Wrestling. We had this week's episode of Calling Spots, the broken telephone game, where this week's story featured Vince McMahon riding a hoverboard? Lori, what the hell was this? And finally, we had Quizlemania X7. While the show did feature the return of this happy little scamp, it also featured a ton of other newsworthy things too. Adam Blampier, coming nowhere near first place, has agreed to shave off his hair, beard, and eyebrows for charity. Of course, the real big news coming out of Quizlemania X7 is that of the firing of Luke Owen. I guess he lives on this channel now, but again, I don't know what's going on.
And you're fired. So Luke's fired, everyone.
What?
He's gone from the company. Don't worry about it, everybody. He's no longer around.
And that just about wraps it up here with the WrestleTalk recap. Coming up this week, of course, we have some Payback coverage. Make sure you check that out. And maybe we'll get some resolution between Mr. Davis and Luke Owen. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you as always for watching the WrestleTalk recap. Make sure you give this video a like, give the channel a subscribe to all of WrestleTalk's YouTube channels, and make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Our Instagram, of course, is @WrestleTalk.official. Our Twitter is @WrestleTalk_TV. You can follow me on Twitter @TempestWT, and I will see you next time.